We're back again here with Brian Welch, the former lead guitarist of Korn, and you've already told us the amazing story of how you slipped into this life of drugs, incredible fame. You had everything that everybody out there can ever want in this life, and yet you were completely miserable. So you talk a little bit about in your book how you realized that you needed to get off these drugs. We talked about it at the last part of the interview, and you actually did check yourself into rehab a couple of times. How come you couldn't get free from those drugs on your own?
Well, I went to outpatient rehabs, and because it gave me too much anxiety just to think about being locked up in a place, you know. And so I tried to do it, and they gave me medication to get off the drugs to get rid of the depression. But when I tried to quit, I felt this cloud of depression come on me, like kill yourself. You know, you're not going to be happy. It was just unbearable, and I couldn't do it. And I'd run back to the drugs. When I snorted the drugs, it took away that, and it gave me the satisfaction. And I'd get so high that I would just forget about that I was killing myself, you know. But it was scary because I was like, what am I gonna do, man? How am I gonna quit? I'm addicted forever or what? Because every time I knew I needed some help outside of myself, you know.
How did the introduction of Christianity or church or God get in the picture now? And I read that you kind of had some encounters when you were a kid, when you were younger. Did those memories come back, or how did you kind of hear about this thing called, you know, Jesus and the gospel and salvation and freedom and that kind of thing?
Well, like I said, I wasn't reaching out to people because I was embarrassed of my speed addiction. I was hiding it from people, and you know, that was just considered a dirty drug. So I was thinking about just, you know, my life and how, I mean, I had heart problems. I was scared that I was going to die, you know, from this drug. And I was doing real estate in Bakersfield at the time during this whole thing. I was like, behind the closed doors, I was doing drugs, but to the world, I was like trying to be normal, and I was in business and everything. And the guys I was in business with were Christian. And one day when I was at home in 2004, horrible time in my life, you know, just after my daughter, I caught her singing a Korn song because she was on the road with me called Adidas. All day I dream about sex. She was singing it in the house. I'm like, gosh, I gotta quit. And then he sends me, my real estate broker sends me a scripture, Matthew 11:28, come to me all who are weary and heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. And right then I was like, I flashed back to this time that I asked Jesus in my heart when I was 13, but I didn't tell anybody, but I did it. And I was like, could that be real? Could this be why I'm miserable? All this depression, all this, you know, unsatisfied life that I was living and just being miserable and being a rock star. I was like, is that because I'm not right? You know, and he's real, because I thought it was just about goodies, not drinking, cussing, or smoking. You know, I thought they made up the story to ruin the party, you know. That's in my mind, and I was like, but when I was at my worst, I was like, wow, could this be real? It was a last resort. Jesus was my last resort. I tried everything else. And I just emailed him back, and I was like, I'm a lost soul. And I just told somebody, I said, I'm a lost soul. I asked Jesus in my heart when I was 13, and I remember that feeling, but I've never went to church, and, you know, I thought instantly you think God's mad at you, you know? And he hates you, or he's, you know, if there is a God, you know, I'm like in my mind going. And so that was the beginning of the process.
Now, as you walk through that process, how did you see God begin to move on your behalf as far as getting rid of the drugs and then coming to the decision to quit Korn? Was it something that you were relieved? Was it a decision that you were relieved to make, or was it something that you were kind of scared to almost let go of because of all the success and things that it brought you?
There was a tug of war going on inside of me. I knew I was going to end up dead if I didn't stop. I knew that my daughter needed a good dad. But, I mean, we're talking about giving up the dream life that you know, when you're at the top. Usually people come to Christ when their band's washed up and they're, you know, and everything, you know, they're in the gutter. I'm still going good, and there's a big $20 million paycheck coming if I stay in the band for a few more months. So I'm like going, okay, I need to get off drugs. I mean, what do I do? I was just so confused. And all I wanted to do is get clean and sober so I could make a rational decision. You know,
Yeah.
I was so messed up. So that was the main thing. So I ended up going to church with the real estate partner of mine, and the pastor got up and spoke about, he said, if you just talk to Jesus. First of all, the scripture, Matthew 11:28, was up on the screen when I got there. So I was like, okay, that's the second
there was
time
a
I've seen it.
conspiracy going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah. And the pastor talked about, he said, if you just hang out with Jesus, talk to him, he'll take all the bad things and they'll just melt away. You don't even got to try to get rid of them and stuff. It just happens. So I was like, I heard that and I was like, cool, I'm going to raise my hand at the end of the service, go home, snort meth, and talk to Jesus. So I mean, honestly, I was on meth at the church. I raised my hand, accepted Christ, went home. I went in my closet and snorted a line of meth, and I said, Jesus, I was sincere. I remember it like it was yesterday. Jesus, if you're real, please take these drugs from me. I'm killing myself. My daughter needs her father. She lost her mother to drugs. Make me not want to die. Help me. And I was standing there, and I snorted another line a little bit after I prayed. I was just addicted. And within a couple weeks, I had an encounter with God. I was reading the Bible, high on meth. I had an encounter with God that was so real, so peaceful, overpowered anything that any drugs, higher than any show I've played, higher than any drug I've done. And it was so real that I've been changed ever since. I got delivered off drugs. I threw them away the next day. I've never done them again. I've had them in my hand like a month after that, and I threw them down. Then I grabbed a camera and took a picture of myself throwing them in the toilet. It's in my book. And I've been delivered. The Lord led me to leave Corn after that, and here I am.